How do you know if an idea is really your own? How far is too far to save our planet? Guys, I am excited for this episode. I am Joshua Noel, and I'm here. This is an autobiographical podcast episode. I'm here with the one and only Isaac Clark to tell us his story. Isaac, how's it going?
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Much nicer down here than up there.
Yeah. Also, Isaac sometimes is known as TJ, so you're on Blackwell, but today he's Isaac Clark. So as always, this is one of our primary political episodes. We're going to be talking about EarthGov in the Dead Space video game franchise. This is kind of a continuation of an episode we did last year as part of our Religion in Our Fandom series. TJ and I talked about Unitology, the cult that makes up a lot of the story of Dead Space. Today we're going to talk about the government behind all of it, how the two are related a little bit, that kind of stuff. It's going to be a fun episode, but as always, when we do our primarily political episodes, we like to start by identifying someone we think is a bad actor in politics, and later we'll identify someone we think is a good actor in politics. And it could be biblical, could be fiction, could be real, could be, whatever. It truly does not matter. Doesn't matter that much anyway. Yeah, I think I could say that. I'm trying to think something that's a bad actor in politics. There's something I saw recently that I thought was really relevant. It's a movie that came out.
So I'm going to go with Ben Wyatt from Parks and Rec. The first time, when he was 18, he became the mayor of that town and just ruined the town immediately. Super funny.
All right. I'll see that. I don't know if it's a bad actor or if she's just bad at politics. So I don't want to say Amanda Waller because I feel like she's trying to do good. She's just a bad person. Which is also true of Lex Luthor, in my opinion. Just saying. I'll go real life. There's this guy, Donald Trump. I think he might be the absolute worst person in politics ever, personally. Very selfishly
He's not
motivated.
a bad actor, though. Have you
He's
seen
not an
Home
actor.
Alone?
But, I do think his intentions in politics are mostly to benefit himself at the cost of others and then other people in his own, friend group and of similar wealth at the cost of people who are immigrants and poor. And to me, that makes him a bad person with bad motives. Yeah, that kind of bad actor. Anyway, so with that, that's my answer. I'll put him as worse than Saruman personally. Anyway, and Lex Luthor. Guys, if you are listening and I didn't just alienate you all, because I know some people do like him for some reason. Not me. Please consider rating and reviewing our show on Podchaser or Good Pods. That helps the algorithms and search engines think that we're important. If you're not on the laptop, you're on your phone, and you're using Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Most people use those apps. If you rate, review, or comment there, that kind of flags them as this show's being important, manipulates the algorithm so other people want to hear us. So, maybe rate, review, comment on there. That'd be cool. Also want to do a shout out to one of our sponsors, Jonathan Augustin. You are awesome, man. I just remembered I need to get back up with you. I messaged you about a meeting online soon, so I will be doing that. If you guys want to also meet me online and me forget, or to get a shout out on our podcast, you can also support the show on Apple Podcast, Captivate, or Patreon for $3 a month or more. More is also cool. And if you want to hear more of our primarily political episodes where we talk about the politics in our fandoms, the whole series will be down below in the description, so check that out. And without further ado, let's get into the main topic. We're talking about EarthGov in Dead Space. So first, TJ, could you unpack some, like last time we did an episode, we talked about Dead Space, the Unitology tie-ins with that kind of cult. Could you just kind of summarize real quickly what we talked about then?
Dead Space has, our main antagonistic faction are the Unitologists, not the Necromorphs. It's like a thing. But Unitology and EarthGov are kind of like, they're basically the same entity serving different purposes. Broad strokes. They're formed the same basic way. EarthGov kind of fell into the clutches of the marker. Unitology was entirely founded and based around the marker. So, kind of that thing. If you want to hear us talk for like 40 minutes about Unitology, we did do that already.
Yeah, yeah. Just from my understanding with Unitology, the thing that was interesting about it is so it's a cult that worships these markers, and basically the cult is already about us all literally physically becoming one. Which it's funny because we get into some of the differences of uniformity and unity in that other episode. And for those who don't know, TJ and I are also do a podcast, the Whole Church Podcast. That's all about church unity. So it's interesting for us to talk about that from that perspective. And the cult just happened to be right about some things. And the marker is this other thing that isn't really attached to Unitology that just so happened to make everybody physically be one. So, yeah, it was more of a coincidence. I feel like the cult happened first, and then they just happened to find something that fit what they wanted their beliefs to be about, and then turn everyone into zombies, basically.
Yeah.
Space zombies.
Well, they found the marker, and they thought the marker was cool, and the marker was like, yeah, I think you guys are cool too. Worship me.
And then they did. Yeah. So other than that, what is just your series as a whole, Dead Space as a whole? What is your background with Dead Space, TJ?
So way back in the day, and for me that's like 2014 or 15. I was at a friend's house who just had way too many games, and I barely had any games. So when I left his house one day, I just took all 3 Dead Space games with me. It's like, I'm gonna play these. So I started playing Dead Space.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I probably started around the same time as you. I was much older than you. I was in college, but probably also 2014, 2015, something like that. Maybe 2013. I don't know. It's one of those games I had heard about for a long time. As a big PlayStation guy, I always wanted to play them, but as someone who grew up in a particular kind of Christianity, I was never allowed to play them because they say bad words and they have blood, and video games with blood also make you violent and serial killers or something. I don't know. So I wasn't allowed to play them. So it was part of like I had a whole like slew of games. I was waiting until I was on my own to play, and then it was like, hey, I'm in college, and everybody else is getting drunk and doing whatever, and I'm like, here's all these games I've been wanting to play, so I played them. Yeah, I don't care about people. I want to fight zombies in space. I don't need a party. And I fell in love with them immediately, and then I'm the kind of person who like hyper fixates, so I got really into the lore and watching like some of the YouTube videos and stuff. Probably last year before we did our other episode, I started getting more into the lore. At first, it was more just about, hey, cool, killing zombies in space is cool. I knew some of the stuff, thought it was interesting. Then as time's got on, I've got more into like watching the YouTube videos, doing the research, and learning stuff. I don't know how much I remember. This episode will be a test of that. But it was fun. Okay, so TJ, in the video games, before you get EarthGov, you have the Sovereign Colonies. And this is supposed to be in like the same universe that we're in currently, like in real life. So how do you get from like where we are now, present day, to where the game says sovereign colonies happen?
So in 2045,
That sounds right.
the Bering Strait, or the Battle of the Bering Sea, because friction between the Soviet Union and the United States sparks eventually. And then, as you can imagine, in 20 years from now, if we went to war with Russia, it would be pretty bad. But in this, it is the USSR still.
It might go back to the USSR.
Yeah.
The way things are headed.
So maybe Dead Space is just right about everything. We'll see. But pretty much what happens is that war happens, and of course other countries get roped into it. But by this point, we also have a moon base, because space travel is a thing. We
also do have a space force now in America. Like this also could actually happen.
Yeah. But at the same time they were at war with the USSR, we were also building a moon base with China. But that was because of resources. We got the resource wars coming up. The resource scarcity on Earth eventually convinced the Earth, to kind of be friendly with each other.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So there was a secession war. How to get... That's later. That's how we get to EarthGov.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So it's interesting. So you see some stuff that happened in Dead Space takes place when the sovereign colonies are still in place. Because of the resource war as well as the Russian war, which made the resources harder because now Earth is like desolate slightly. Nukes are bad for the planet, it turns out. And also we're running out of resources because we keep using fossil fuels. All this stuff really does seem like stuff that could happen. So we have the moon base, we have other stuff going on, and kind of the sovereign colonies are kind of like hush-hush secret, not letting everybody know, but they're already doing some research into these markers that are like, how would you describe, like, physically, what do they look like? Pillars?
yeah.
Like, I'm looking for, like, there's a word that starts with, like,
prongs.
obscule.
A duolith instead of a monolith.
Yeah. But they exist out in space, and they are just exuding, like, insane amount of energies. And they're like, hey, we can figure this thing out. Probably solve a resource problem. But their research, Sovereign Colonies research on it, kind of gets cut short because, like you mentioned, there was the secession fights.
Yep.
And could you get into that, maybe?
A marker on Earth.
Was there? I forgot about that.
In the Chicxulub crater.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So
could you explain some of that? And then, like, what happens with, like, how do we get from Sovereign Colonies to EarthGov to?
So, Sovereign Colonies to EarthGov is a little easier. Sovereign Colonies got formed, like, after the colonial expansion of Earth. So, like, we are going out and finding inhabitable bodies because Earth's messed up. Then the Secession War happens at the start of the 24th century. During the Secession War, SC, the Sovereign Colonies dissolves, and can't believe I forgot the first part of EarthGov. It's Earth.
Yeah.
The Earth Government Colonial Alliance was founded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. Like, just kind of following the line. Like, it's very much not fantasy. Like, a lot of Star Wars, it's sci-fi, but it's also definitely fantasy. And, like, all of this stuff is, like, technically possible. Not outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see if Dead Space is right. It could be future history. I don't know. No, I think what's interesting too, though, is like a lot of the history of what happened with EarthGov or like the sovereign colonies. Whenever you do find documents throughout the game, like you can find little like secret things that are documents that tell you about the history. Like you can just choose to find these and learn more your own, or you can just play through the game and you'll learn some of it and not learn other parts of it. But sometimes you'll find the documents and they're like highly redacted. So the game also uses a little bit of like intentional obscuring so that they don't have to explain it all if they don't want to.
Yeah, which fair. I wouldn't either.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot. It's easier to just get to, hey, look at that zombie thing, kill it. And that is why most people are playing. So that's fair. Yeah. So one thing you mentioned with like both the sovereign colonies and EarthGov, part of why they're able to happen is because things get so bad that the governments on our Earth are like, hey, we need to just combine for the survival of the planet, basically. What do you think, DJ, it would actually take for our world to get to like world peace or like a single government?
I'm not really sure if it's possible.
Yeah, me neither. I honestly, I think, because the truth of the matter is, like, we all like to think things happen really gradually, and a lot of times they do, or things just like slowly get worse and worse. But a lot of times too, just all of a sudden tension builds, and then one big thing happens, you know. And I feel like that's more likely. Like, I feel like it's more likely that things keep getting worse, and then we have a nuclear war, and we all just die, than it is that things slowly get worse, and eventually we're like, we should probably stop here.
Yeah, I think I think if there's more than 1 billion people on Earth, their world peace is not really possible.
Yeah, that's probably true. Well, especially with just like how much history and culture is behind everything. Like our value systems aren't even the same in like Western and Eastern cultures. That's not necessarily a good or bad thing, but it makes peace a lot harder because it's like, okay, well, let's just all agree on this thing. And they're like, yeah, that value doesn't even translate. Like, what are you talking about? You know?
So it's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Aside from literally God on Earth, I'm not sure if it's possible at all.
Yeah. Same. Okay, but we mentioned the markers. I briefly touched on like just like the incredible amount of energy they're putting off of. But could you maybe explain a little bit more, like what drew people to start researching the markers in the first place? Because the sovereign colonies do it, they lose research, then the Earth Gov starts researching it again.
Yeah, the markers do it. They compel people to spend more time with them, so they can take them over.
Yeah,
and turn them into a living planet.
yeah. So that's the part that so there's really 3 parts of the game. So you have that like the cult thing that we talked about with the Unitology. We have that other episode. Check it out. I'll probably put the link down below. Then you have like the Earth Gov stuff, the government, like what is the government doing? But then there's also just like the natural phenomena that happens. So where these markers exude incredible energy, but they also have like psychic powers. I don't know. How do you describe that in a way that doesn't sound as stupid?
It's a sci-fi game.
Yeah, I don't know.
The markers are
are
aliens, and
yeah.
they just plant little thoughts in your head.
Yeah. Yeah, they have some kind of psychic energy, and it causes you to, it warps you into wanting to worship them and wanting to be a part of it. And then by being a part of it, you turn into what's called a necromorph, which is basically space alien, and it's terrifying. We don't have that on the sides, do we?
Oh, no, we don't.
Nah, it's terrifying, though. But but because you're being compelled by this thing, it's kind of taking over part of your mind. Kind of a little bit of mind control. But it's really hard to tell sometimes where the mind control ends and where our motives start, you know? Because, like, there you can easily trace a line where, oh, no, the government actually did have an interest in pursuing this energy because we were running out of resources. So it's hard to follow, like, that line and go, wait a minute. So when did it stop being we're trying to get resource and start being this thing's manipulating us into being a part of it, you know?
Yeah. And it's definitely just like bad timing. Like we found the marker, resource hungry, in need of power. The marker gives off insane power.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. It's which is funny because it like coincides almost exactly with what happens with the cult, where like they're wanting to be one, they're already starting this kind of cult, and then boom, here's a thing that's telling them to worship it, and it'll make you one. You know?
It's just going to be really annoying in 20 years when we find a marker and I'm like, everyone's like, hey, no, let's not mess with that. But
yeah. People like us are going to be like, wait a minute, there was a video game about this. We shouldn't do it. And everyone else is going to think we're crazy.
yeah.
I think they're going to get mind controlled.
But by that point, all of our politicians will have been born in like, 1980.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll listen.
That's true. That's possible. So part of also like what kind of compels some of the people and why they keep it under wraps and they don't tell everybody. Earth Gov and the Sovereign Colonies both end up being very much like ruled by the rich, the people who are already powerful, and they don't actually care that much about the people. Like in theory, it's like, oh yeah, we'll have infinite energy for everyone, but like realistically, they're like, if we get this energy, we could force people to give us all their money. Yeah, and that's why they don't tell everybody, because they're like, we want it for ourselves. So they don't share that information, and then it just be those who are closest to the higher ups are the only ones who know about it, who are also the people who are physically closer to the marker, which means they're all being mind controlled. And all the people who aren't physically close to it are being kept out because, no, we want our money, so they're kind of like keeping it a secret.
Yep.
Yeah.
In a capitalistic society, the rich will always end out on top. That's just the way it works.
Yep. Life sucks. That's it. Hope y'all have a great new year.
Get out there and make money.
Yeah. Man. No, this episode is dropping ironically January 7th, so like the day after the January 6th in America is a big date for several reasons. You know, one because of the revolt that happened because of Donald Trump, and then also because that's when we finalize the electoral count in Congress. So it is interesting how you already kind of see people who spend their lives in politics, whose family are in politics, stay in politics. People who are rich and powerful stay in politics. And that's not just true in America. That's literally across the world. And one of the things that is interesting, and it's one of the few positive things that I can pull out of Donald Trump being elected, is you can actually see worldwide, everyone's just got really fed up and are like, well, we're going to vote against the party that's in power right now. That's where you see, like, across the world, a lot of the governments that were, you know, leaning liberal became conservative. A lot of the governments that were ruling conservative all of a sudden become liberal because all the people said, no, we need a change. And what's interesting is, even though we changed, we just went from Joe Biden, spent his whole life, his family's in politics, like that's his life. He is that kind of person, to Donald Trump, who is a person of rich and wealth and power. Like we're still just putting the powerful in powerful positions. Like we're not, you know, we're not actually doing anything to turn the system upside down or anything.
Yeah. So here's how Andrew Yang can still win.
Oh man, funny stuff. But yeah, and that's just, you know, I'm trying not to make it just American, but it is interesting when we see this of like, even when we switch and we're going to vote for someone else, we just have a tendency to vote for other rich, powerful people. Or even if it's not voting, you know, it's a lot easier to see that in some of your more dictator-led countries. But yeah. So if the rich and powerful always end up staying on top, like you said, DJ, can we ever actually trust politicians, or should we just always ignore what they say?
I don't trust a lot of rich people.
Yeah, fair. But can we ever trust them? Like, because, you know, usually they're the ones that's going to tell us, like, what's the leading scientific research of the day, or like how our economy is doing. That's where we get this information. So how do we know when we can actually trust it?
That's up to you. Like, it's hard to know when you can trust anything these days.
That's true. That's fair.
So I would err on caution.
Yeah. That's why I think it's important to see what are people from different sides of an argument saying about it. What are people from different fields saying about it? Some things you don't need to do that. Like if I'm looking at, you know, virus research, I don't need to see what any religious sect says about it. Doesn't really matter. I need to know what scientists are saying about it. And if there is debate, what are the other scientists saying? And then do all of my research for myself that I need to do to make an educated decision about stuff. I would say you can't be an expert of everything, so don't just like commit your life to researching every single thing that comes up. But do enough to know who are the leading experts, what are they saying. When there is disagreement, read up on the disagreement, and then you can make a decision for yourself, I feel like. Yeah. And I mean, that's not just medicine. It's money, too. You have a lot of people who, you know, most of our leading economists. How do I say this word? Economist?
Economist.
Yeah. There we go. In America, will tell you that the tariffs that are being suggested are absolutely terrible and will wreck our economy. But there are people who disagree. They're in the minority, but it's still worthwhile to read why they disagree and like what they're saying. And, you know, just to be educated is good. But yeah, powerful people are going to stay on top. Don't just blindly accept everything they say, but don't try to like waste your life researching literally every little thing that comes up. That's what I would say.
Okay, I found it. I've been looking for it for a minute because I couldn't remember what it was called. But there's a website called Ground News, which is pretty good as like a primary news source because anything on the website has multiple sources for it. So you'll see what certain websites are reporting on that others aren't. It's like if something is only on Fox News, you know, that just gives you the kind of idea of who cares about that. Any articles about the same topics, news is about the same topics. We'll show you both of them or all of them. It's like we've got Fox, MSN, CNN, like the BBC, like it'll show you all of them at the same time. So you can cross-reference and, you know, try to make your own informed decision about whatever's going on. Not a sponsorship, but it would be cool. if you're listening. Ground
Yeah.
news.
Yeah. Well, so that's the other thing. So when we talked about this with the cult of Unitology, and I think it's also relevant here with EarthGov. I don't remember exactly who, but if you pay attention, a lot of the times they put their focus on a leader or a group of leaders, and I think that's another thing you can tell whether it's news or politicians. If what they're talking about is mostly a person, what they're doing, you might be able to classify as hero worship. They're probably not being very honest with you. They're wanting you to think good of a person because they don't want you to see the ideas or the stuff behind it. And that's that's how you know when you might be in a cult. It's also when you know maybe your political leaders don't actually have a spine. Looking at Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, he had certain ideas. He went back on most of them, and now the main thing he talks about is certain people because he wants to basically fall in line with them so that he can stay in power. And that's how you can kind of identify. If someone's saying something about people more than they're saying stuff about their ideas, they probably care more about the power than the ideas.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the people eat it up.
Yeah. It's great. But, TJ, on a more personal level, it's important for our politics, but like even personally, how do I know when something's actually my idea? You know what I mean? Like so in this game, it's these markers are like putting thoughts in my head. So it's at one point I went because I want the energy, and then at some point I started doing it because I'm getting manipulated to do it. Similar things happen in religion, politics, all this kind of stuff, right? Where like maybe originally I went to church because I was looking for answers. Then all of a sudden I'm finding myself in a church where it's telling me these are the things I need. These are the things I want to do. And then I'm being manipulated by it, And at some point I went from seeking on my own to being told how to feel and what to do. Same thing happened in our politics. Like maybe I should stop using specific examples. Maybe you did follow a politician though, because you liked a lot of his ideas. And then at some point he starts telling you, no matter what, you have to vote Republican. No matter what, you have to vote Democrat, whatever. And then at some point it stopped being about the ideas and you supporting his thoughts. And all of a sudden it's him telling you what to think. How do I know when I'm still doing something of my own volition or if I'm doing it because I'm being manipulated?
You don't.
There's no way to ever find out?
Not really. The world we live in, we're constantly surrounded with information, advertisements, propaganda, other people's opinions. There is legitimately no way to confidently say, I came up with this is my idea. That being said, your stance is your stance. And if you're doing your best to be well informed, educated about the issues that you're speaking about, then that's your idea. And you can choose to endorse specific people whose ideas mostly align, but you just have to say like, well, this is who I'm supporting, but it's not quite my views.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think none of us are an island unto ourselves. We're all in constant relationship. We're in entanglement, to use Will's favorite word, in a process of becoming. I just want to, shout out Josh Patterson. That's the only reason I say that one. But because we're constantly in relationship and we're constantly getting stuff from other people, I think the danger more comes in when you blindly trust a single source or a single person or a single church, single religion maybe. So I would say the best thing to do, you're never going to know if an idea is originally your own, but I think the best thing to do if you're concerned about it being manipulated, don't get all your stuff from a single source, right? Like seek out other sources, seek out other informations, learn about other religions, other philosophies. And then you still might not be having your own ideas, but you can more confidently say that you've thought about it and seen the other perspective, and you're not just being manipulated by one person at least. You're being influenced by a relationship of various people across different ideas. And I think that's probably a healthier way to go about life.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to say really quick, just because I mentioned it, Ground News is not free. It is 83 cents a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of Ground News, what I do, which I'm probably going to check out Ground News too. I'm curious if they're on Substack. But I use Substack. It's, for me, taking place of what Twitter used to be, where I can like follow certain people and get a bunch of different ideas. And now Twitter's algorithms just kind of give you certain people's ideas, and that's it almost. It's really hard to use Twitter the way you used to be able to. Substack, though, you have notes, so I can get the short blurbs from people who are on both sides of the aisle, and I can also read like long form ideas that have been thought out and fleshed out a little bit better. And you're a little bit more in control of who shows up on your feed. It's pretty cool. I did an episode about it with Nick Polk on Whole Church. You guys should check that out. We talked about Substack as well as both of our Substacks and plugged his book because we want everyone to support Nick Polk. You thought we were telling you how to avoid a cult. Instead, we're telling you how to find a better cult. Everyone, follow Nick Polk. Listen to every single thing he says. Allow him to manipulate you because someone's going to manipulate you anyway. Might as well be
Nick.
Yeah, we love Nick. All right.
This message is sponsored by Nick Polk of the Tolkien Pop Substack.
Yeah, completely. This was all his idea. Oh, man. No, but, yeah. The only last thing I want to get at, outside the manipulation bit, there also is just like, they justified a lot of messed up stuff to do research for whatever the markers. And, you know, the justification, if you take away the brainwave thing, and because you don't know when it's their idea, when it's the marker's idea, but what you do know is that there's a justification here where they take people like Isaac Clarke, who've been impacted by the marker, but have not turned into a necromorph or zombie thing. And they kind of torture him to try and pull out parts of the marker from him so that they can still use the energy. So there's an idea that they're going to solve Earth's energy problem by torturing people and pulling stuff out of them because they just happen to survive the marker. And I think anyone in a third party and playing this game, you're like, wow, that is messed up. These are some bad guys. But I can kind of see where they got there, right? Because that's like the whole thought is, we're going to sacrifice this small group of people so that without getting too close to the marker, we can give the whole planet energy. I mean, realistically, they're going to sell energy to the whole planet because they want to make money, and that's their whole motive. But you can kind of see the justification a little bit there, though, right? So how do we know when we've gone too far, DJ?
Again, it's one of those things where it's really hard to know. Is there such a thing as going too far? The Bible says, follow all just laws. It's a just law. They're also responsible for overthrowing unjust systems.
Yes. I would say so. I especially another plug, Trip Fuller, his work with Bonhoeffer. I've been kind of keeping up with some, and I'm like, oh, yeah, no, we need to do more to stand up against unjust systems in our politics. Yeah, Bonhoeffer's a big one to follow if you care about politics and faith. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. For me, it's less hard because I am like completely against utilitarianism. If an action is right, it is right, and if it's not right, it's not right. Torturing a person, that's bad. I don't care what the end result is. It's bad. I just wouldn't do it. I advise against it. To pull my Christian Taoism card, Lao Tzu talks a lot about it. He writes about how we get so full of knowledge and so full of stuff that we no longer have room for what is right. We need to be an empty bowl. We need to empty ourselves of all this other stuff, what we think we know and all this stuff to find what is the way. If you think the way of God, Jesus, love, whatever, that's great. That's kind of where I fall. And when I look at something like this, I can ask either, what is the way, or I can ask, what would Jesus do? And I don't think the answer is torture someone, pull out any information we can. I don't think it matters what the end result is. That is not part of the way. And as someone who doesn't believe in time, it's hard for me to use the ends to justify any means because time's not real. So just do the right thing in each moment, and it will turn out okay.
Right. Naturally.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think if you always do the right thing in the moment you're in, it'll be what is meant to happen is what will happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
If everybody does the right thing in each moment, that is.
Yeah.
I can't control if TJ decides to shoot me in the shoulder. I'm just like, I just want to see how you'd live without your shoulder.
Sure can't.
I can't control that. He didn't want me to have a shoulder, then yeah. What I can't control is after I
Pretty
get
sure
shot
he
in the
handled
shoulder, I can decide what is the way. Is it to shoot TJ back, to forgive him, and then learn how to live without a shoulder? I don't know. You know,
I'd
each
say the
moment.
second one.
That's what I think. I think so too. I think shooting you back's probably wrong.
Yeah, you should.
Would
do
Jesus
that.
tell me to turn the other shoulder? Is what I want to know.
Yes.
If someone blows your shoulder off, turn the other shoulder so they can blow that one off too. Yeah, my new translation of Jesus's words. There.
Yeah, I
it
mean
is.
that's just pretty much turn the other cheek. That's the same.
Yeah, turn the other cheek. Let them shoot both shoulders. It's the same thing. I think it really is. This would be my last little side tangent. I think a lot of people are like, well, it says turn the shoulder, your cheek. Sorry, it says turn the other cheek, but it doesn't say you have to keep turning the other cheek. Jesus would tell you to fight back after turning the cheek once. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Where are you pulling that from, man? That is not what that means. And I think a lot of people do that, where they're like, well, he says that, but he doesn't want you to be a pushover. I'm like, actually, I think maybe he just did kind of want you to be a pushover. that actually might be okay. You know, we get in these, like, we're stuck in like these honor, shame kind of cultures. And we're like, well, that's, turn the other cheek because Jesus said so, but I don't have to do it more than once. Yes, you do. Forgive 7 times, 70 times. Yeah. Or back to Lao Tzu. Be water. Where you benefit everyone, but you're not in competition with anyone. I think that's what it's supposed to be, I go with the flow. TJ shoots my shoulder, I'm going to go with the flow. I don't got to shoot him back. I'm not in competition with TJ. It's good. Now apply that to politics. How do I turn the other shoulder in the political arena, DJ?
Well, we've seen some politicians handle slander campaigns graciously and respectfully, and just standing firm in their actions and their words, and just saying like, yeah, that's not true. And moving on, we've also seen counter slander campaigns. Think it's pretty clear which one of those you're supposed to do.
Yeah, true. I also think that's true. And it tells you if you want to vote for someone or not. Like, don't support some. Like, here's my thing. As a Christian, or as a Taoist if you want, you don't support evil. So if someone's guilty of sexual assault, don't support that person, perhaps. If someone's going to do a slander campaign or a reverse slander, like going to respond to it in the same way, don't support that. You can just choose not to support anybody, too. That's always a choice. But I think personally, because I think I alienated a lot of the Donald Trump supporters earlier on anyway, so there are probably a lot more people closer to my camp listening. But the thing I worry about that's relevant to this, and TJ's going to give us all a great piece of wisdom, and we'll wrap this up. A lot of us saw everything that Donald Trump represents, how he's talked bad about people, how he's going to go after political components, and how people who are in this side of the camp want to, do stuff against immigrants and ban this. And, there's a lot of stuff that we think are nasty, filled with anger and hate. And I think, we could respond in jest and also do anger and hate and whatever it takes to keep him from getting credit. I think that's wrong. I think we still want the best for the country, even if Donald Trump gets credit for it. Because I kind of want the best things to happen for people. And to do the right thing in each moment is still important.
If he had a fantastic FDR level second term,
That'd
be crazy.
It'd be great, though. Be good for the country. Even if I don't support him or what he stands for, I still want the best thing for the country and the people around me.
Yep.
Yeah.
It'd be really funny because so much of the country would still be, wow, that guy sucks. Hate him. Couldn't wish any worse for him.
Yeah. I would still say that guy sucks and I hate him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That'd be hilarious.
I would also say he did a great job.
Seems
I'm not afraid to admit it. I just not like him while I admit it, It's a character problem for me. Yeah. But similarly, though, if he came out and said, we're going to start torturing Isaac Clarke to get information about the marker and give everybody clean energy, you might see a lot of Democrats support that because clean energy. I will be against it. Torture bad. Joshua Noel, 2028. Torture bad.
Nuclear power good.
That's true. Nuclear war bad. Nuclear power good. Yeah. All right. Any other notes about Dead Space or politics or anything else before we start wrapping this one up, TJ?
Nope.
All right, then. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We got really political. I mean, January 7th, 'tis the season, I guess. And the name of the series, primarily political. I mean, that's kind of what it's about, I guess. At the beginning, we asked everyone to identify a bad political actor, real life, biblical, fiction, whatever. Now we're all going to identify a positive political actor, and TJ will go first since he has time to think about it, and my brain's hurting for some reason.
I'm gonna go with Ben Wyatt from the end of Parks and Recreation. Really,
The same character. I love it.
Yeah. He really went through a lot and becomes, and I don't even remember his actual title at the end of the show. But he was good at it.
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
Yeah. I'm going to go with... I'm trying to remember her name.
I'll say he was the first man at the end of the series, so.
Stall for me. I got to look up someone's name.
Parks and Rec is full of good and bad political actors. If it's just something you like small government and towards the end even big government, sitcom, it's really good.
I found out why I couldn't remember her name. She doesn't have a name. Grand Councilwoman from Lilo and Stitch. Great political actor. Anti-chaos, wants to benefit all planets, respects the rules. She's awesome. Yeah, turns out her name's literally just Grand Councilwoman. Who knew?
Me.
Probably a lot of people, but not I. TJ and I are also about to record an episode about that, so I kind of cheated. Anyway, guys, we appreciate you all for listening to this. Please, if you have the chance and you're on your laptop, go to Good Pods or Podchaser to leave a rate and review there. That helps Google search engines and other search engines give a crap about our show. So that's cool, and it's a free thing you can do. If you're on your phone, you're using Apple Podcasts or Spotify, rate, review, comment there. Those are the two most popular podcast apps, and if we get ratings on there, especially good ratings, they may flag our show when other people look up something like Dead Space or Lilo and Stitch. We might be one of the first things that come up if you guys give us enough ratings. And again, that's a free thing you can do. Shout out again to Jonathan Gustin. You rock, man. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Not free, with money. He supports the show with money. So he gets a shout out, and you can too, for $3 a month or more on Patreon, Captivate, or Apple Podcasts. Remember, this is part of our primarily political series. So if you want to hear other primarily political episodes that we've done, whole link down below, as well as probably the link to the Unitology episode. It seems like it'd be weird if I didn't link that episode to this. And we need you all to do one very important thing for us. Just remember, we're all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.